Welcome back. Game comes alive not just through its characters, but through its feedback. Today we're going to take our 2D controller from the last video and inject it with some professional game feel. We'll be working with the Camera2D, parallax scrolling, and some visual feedback systems to make every action feel more impactful. Alright, to start this off, click on your player, press Ctrl A, search for a Camera2D node, and we're going to add that in. Over here in our inspector, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to increase the zoom a little bit. I'm going to put it at 4. And then let's move our player back a little bit. I put 4 just because then the player can be on the ground and it won't show a whole lot else of this gray right away in the preview mode. Click back on your camera and make sure you choose position smoothing and turn that on. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at 5, which is its default. We'll see a good smoothing amount is somewhere in between 3 and 8, so 5 seems like a good middle ground. This will create a trailing motion where the camera kind of eases into the player's new position. Alright, to give the player better visibility in the direction they're moving, we can implement a little bit of a look ahead behavior. We'll do this by shifting the camera's X position, X offset dynamically based on the player's velocity. So what we're going to do is head over to our scripts. Make sure you're selected on your player script for this. We're first going to need to grab a reference to the camera node the moment the scene loads so that we can manipulate it. So we're going to add that in. I'm going to put it right here with my animated sprite on ready variables to keep them together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another method here. It's bringing back our not our physics process, just our process method. So as we're working on this, adding these indentions in, I'll talk about it. So as a reminder, the process function runs every single frame and allows for smooth continuous updates. What we're going to do is we're going to first check our player's velocity and return 1 if we're moving right, and then return -1 if we're moving left, and 0 if we're just standing still. If our direction is not equal to 0, then we're going to apply a new offset. So like I said, as long as the player is moving. So this line is where all that magic happens. So we're going to use the lerp or linear interpolation to smoothly transition the camera's X offset toward our target distance, which is 100 pixels in our current movement direction. You don't always want your camera wandering off into the void, so we can actually restrict it to a rectangular area using the limit properties. So if we go over to our 2D view and we make sure we have camera clicked, we can come over here to our limit and click on that. I already adjusted mine to just fit this immediate area of the tile map. So what I have here is 0, 0, 1150 for the right, and 650 for the bottom, and again 0 for the left and top. But if you look here, you have these yellow bounding boxes that appear. So if I actually adjust the right to say 1250, you'll see that this bounding box actually increases. But I don't need to see any of the empty space because I don't have, so I'm just going to leave it at 1150. Adjust it to the needs of your game. A good rule of thumb is just to check to see how far out your level goes, and then just make the max of that. Remember, it's going to take this center point into consideration as well, not of the camera you added, but of this main camera view. Let me move this so you can see it. I gotta move the whole thing. So this main camera view window, it's going to take that into account, not as you're doing it. So just you're gonna have to probably play around with it a little bit to get it tweaked just right. Alright, let's add some visual richness to our scene. So click on level 1, press Ctrl A. You're going to search for this Parallax 2D node. You used to be able to use Parallax background along with Parallax layers as children of it. That's not the case anymore. So just click on Parallax 2D. I'm going to drag this up here in between the ground and the texture because we're going to need to actually make add some children to it. I'm going to use this middle PNG, which is just like a little forest type area. It's found in the Sunnyland files, assets, and then backgrounds. I'm just going to actually just duplicate that a bit and just move it across. So duplicate is Control D, and you just move it and give it a little overlap. Let's see, take these two and let's see, transform scale -1 to flip them. Try that. Oh, because let's undo the link. -1 to flip them. There we go. Alright, now what I want to do is I'm going to take these 6 and just drag them up underneath this parallax background. Now the parallax background will control them through its settings. So I can take probably 2 of those, duplicate them, and I'm just going to move those off of there, right above it, in between the parallax 2D and the rectangle, and then just move those up here. I'm not going to have those controlled by the parallax because I don't have anything else going on. If I did, then if I did have more level, I'd add those to it, or add a second one and maybe at a different speed depending on what part of the level it is. So with this parallax background, you have a few settings here. You can offset the scroll. You can change the speed at which they scroll. I'm going to recommend that you so by default this parallax will be locked for component ratio, so whatever you change it to on the X, it'll change to on the Y. I don't like that because I like the Y. If it's too low, it'll end up not showing because it'll be below the ground. So for me, I'm gonna unlock it, and I'm gonna make my Y actually probably 0.6, somewhere around there. My X, I'm gonna leave it at 0.2, and let's just test it out to see how it looks. So 0.6 might be too low, but you can see that it is still scrolling. So let's go ahead and bump that up. Leave that at 1 and see what it looks like. Alright, so that's a little better, and then you can still jump up and see the tops of the trees, so that works out. So I think that's going to work out pretty nicely for us. So I'm going to leave that as our settings for it. One of the most useful effects you can add to your game is a camera shake. It provides visceral feedback during heavy landings or in high-speed collisions, but we have to be careful. If we apply our shake to the camera's offset, it will fight with our look-ahead code and cause violent stepping ahead. So instead, we're going to use smoothly decay the camera's position. So let's go ahead and add a script to our camera. We're going to make sure that it is saved in our scripts folder, in our player folder, because it's attached to the player, and then press create. Now let's paste in our code and have a look at what's going on here. So first things first, we have our we expose our decay rate in the inspector. This will allow us to manually control how fast the camera calms down. A higher number means a shorter, punchier shake. Longer number, smaller number extends it out. Then we pass our function shake, which takes a strength variable and makes it equal to our current strength, which is a variable we set up here. We also have this random number generator that is going to create a random number set of numbers for the directions that it's going to shake in. So down here in our function process, we have some if statements. We're going to check to see if the strength is greater than 0, then it's going to start slowly moving towards 0 with this lerp function here. And then we're going to create the shake position here but we're not going to offset it. We're going to just make it between the opposite of what the strength is and what the current strength is. So if the strength is 5, then it's going to be -5 and 5. This will avoid the fighting of the look ahead camera. And then down here we're going to gradually decrease it down to where it doesn't quite get to 0, but it's close enough to where when the camera just resets completely to 0, it's not going to be noticeable. So we did have to make some modifications in our player controller though. So if we go to our player script, you need to add this variable in your physics process at the top called was on floor. Make it equal to is on floor. And then down here and still in our physics process, we're going to check here to see if we just hit the ground on that exact frame. And if we did, then we're gonna apply this camera shake here. So in order to make this work, we did have to make some changes to our player script. So we come over here, we added this was on floor variable inside our physics process, made it equal to is on floor. And then a little down after we get all the movement stuff out of the way, we actually run a check to see if it was on the floor and not, if it's on the floor, it was not just on the floor, then we're going to add this shake. I'm going to bring that shake down because that's going to be a little strong. The decay rate, we'll bring it down to 5 just to kind of give you an idea of how it should look. So we're running around and then we jump, and then there you go. And now as you can see, there's no snapping from the camera due to the look ahead, and then we can still have the look ahead if we turn, so none of that is affected. Camera control, parallax backgrounds, and eventually screen effects don't just look nice, they guide the player's attention and make your game feel alive. Take these scripts and apply them to your projects. Next time in video 10, we'll look at 2D animation trees and flawless hit reactions and state machines. Keep learning, keep building. I'll see you in the next video.